This is the ROS Developers Podcast, episode 123.
The ROS Developers Podcast, the ROS Developers. The ROS Developers Podcast, the ROS Developers.
Hello, ROS developers, and welcome to the ROS Developers Podcast, the program, the podcast that give you insights from the experts about how to program your robots with ROS. This is Ricardo from The Construct, and today I would like to dedicate this episode to all the ROS developers who have been already switched into ROS2 in order to control the robots. Yes, I know it's harder than ROS1. It requires a little bit more of effort, but we can control our robots with ROS2. So if that is your case, you have already switched your robots into ROS2, then this episode is dedicated to you. We are going to talk today a lot about ROS2 and control, ROS2 Control. But before going into that, let me tell you about the Construct and the Robotics Developers Masterclass that we have developed. In this Robotics Developer Masterclass is a full teaching package that lasts for about 6 months. Well, it depends. You can go to your own pace, but we recommend to do it in 6 months. And then it will teach you all the skills that you need to go into a company and start working with programming robots. So you will have all the practical skills that companies are requesting. You can have a look at the path that we are providing to you, where we bring you from a novice status into a robotics developer status, where you are job ready to be hired and work at the company from day number one. Our program is based on several phases, and in each phase you are going to be doing some online courses with simulations, but also connecting to our robots remote labs that we have for the different phases. In phase number 1 we have the CT lab. In phase number 2, we have the warehouse with robots carrying shelves and robotic arms. In phase number 3, we have the cyber maze with the ROSbot XL robot. Then we have another one with more simulated environment. And finally, for the final project, you will have to work on the robotic cafeteria that we have built here at the Construct. So have a look at the webpage link that I will put here on the show notes, and you can see all the details, all the skills that you're going to learn during this master class. At the end, I would like to mention that by the end of the program, you will have an internship, which is not mandatory, it's optional if you want. So we have agreed with some companies and have made some agreements, partnerships, so you can go to those companies and practice your newly learned skills. Okay, have a look at the link below and let me know what you think. Okay, then so far so good. So now it's time that we go for the meat of the episode. Yes, you are here for what? So this is the subject that we are going to be talking today. And today, let me introduce you Dr. Denis Stogl. Denis is the CEO and the founder of Stogl Robotics, a company for consulting about robotics, and actually is one of the companies where if you enroll the masterclass, you can go and do an internship there. But also, Denis is one of the main maintainers and developers of the ROS2 Control package. So today we are going to be talking to him. So welcome to the podcast, Denis.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Ricardo. Nice to meet you. Also virtually again. Yes.
Well, me too. We already know for some time already, and we have been doing together a ROS2 Control workshop during the last ROSCon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was great.
We suffer a lot.
Yeah, it was few nights together, but it was nice.
Yes, it was very nice preparing and also especially delivering. It's so good that you have a second opportunity in the new ROS2 of this year, right?
Yeah,
the second batch.
We will do a bit more advanced workshop.
Oh, it's going to be more advanced. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then that is good that you mentioned, because in case that the listeners want to attend your workshop during the ROS2 this year, which is in the United States, in Louisiana, it is?
In New Orleans, yes.
In New Orleans. And then if you want to attend this advanced workshop, and maybe you say, but how can I attend this one? And I'm not ready to do, I don't know ROS2 Control enough. Then, that's good, because at the Construct we provide some courses. We have a specific course about ROS2 Control, so you can learn the basics and then go with Denis and Bente also and take this workshop. Great. Excellent.
Yeah. So definitely I would recommend people to do some basic knowledge. They should have it, because this year, since we have just a half a day workshop, we want to focus a bit of more complex stuff, which we didn't manage to showcase last year, to show people how they can do very complex things with ROS2 Control. Basically showing some of the few concepts and scenarios we are using in our industrial applications with our clients.
So it's going to be like
core.
An application. You're going to show actual applications of ROS2 Control.
We will not show actual application, because usually we are not allowed to.
For IP.
But what we will show, exactly. But what we will show are the concepts behind. So when you want to do complex control setup, how you can do it, and this is everything what is proven in the real world. You will have to believe me on that, because I cannot show you applications. It's basically that's the main idea, because we often get questions about those stuff, and we know them because we did them, but it's always very hard to explain people how they can do that. And then on a simple examples, we want to show those complex stuff, but examples that people can understand, because often even if you would show application, half a day wouldn't be enough to explain one application probably. So.
Okay, great. So I'll be there.
Yeah, great. See you there.
See you there. Great. And excellent. And another thing about ROS2. So you are organizing also a ROS2 local event in Germany, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm the main guy behind it. Currently also finalizing the team. And beginning of September, we will also have the call for contributions. It will be mostly in German. That's how it is for the local events. It's Germany-based event. It will be in Karlsruhe, Germany, from on 23rd and 24th of November.
Okay, so there is set, and then I will put also a link in the show notes for directly to the event. It's finally. I remember there was a discussion in ROS Answers about the language that you are going to deliver. Then finally it's going to be in German or in English?
Most of it will be in German.
Okay.
We will see. There is also a big community, robotics community in Germany of people who don't speak German directly. I understand, and to be honest, it's a hard decision.
I understand.
It was really hard decision. It was few discussion with also OSRF. What should we do? What is the best, to cover it? But on the other hand, we would also like to get a lot of small companies which use ROS, which don't usually go to big ROSCon because it's just too expensive. Last year Kyoto, this year United States, everything has quite expensive travel costs. So enable them also to connect, and most of them are preferring German also. So
yes. Of course, because it's a local
something, and it's local one, and we are also looking forward for English contributions. As I promised, we will probably have one English slot of presentation. So I don't know, 3, 4, 5 presentation. We'll have to see when we set up the program. But then I would also like those presentations to be very good. maybe we are more flexible. We will be also looking to have simultaneous translations, but I cannot promise on that because I also don't want the conference to be expensive. I try to put the cost as low as possible. It's juggling a lot of things when you organize such an event.
Yes, the difficult decisions. Well, if it serves as an example, here in Spain, we are organizing also the ROSCON Spain, which is by the end of September. And it's just in Spanish. And ROSCON Japan is only in Japanese. And so I don't know if that...
that's exactly the idea, because we also have a ROSCON France. It's mostly in French. I mean, I was also there a guest having like keynote presentation. For the keynote presentation or something like that, of course, why not? I'm very open to it because, the idea is, to connect people, to also have great information, great things presented. We'll see. We'll see how this works out. Yeah.
Okay. Best of luck for that. I am sure it's going to be a complete success because there is an excellent community in ROS in Germany.
That's definitely.
Then wanted to also to mention about that ROS2 Control recently was awarded by the best ROS software of 2023 at the ROS Awards, and wanted to say congratulations because you are one of the main developers and maintainers. So was that expected?
Not really, to be honest. Not really, because there are also other great libraries, great packages out there. I know that our user base is growing constantly, that people are happy having it, but I wasn't aware, or I'm not aware how big is acceptance. It's hard to say because also many companies I'm still talking with, they are still using ROS1 or they are not using ROS Control at all or so on. But this is really great thing.
Excellent.
We are really happy about that. Yeah.
Excellent. And so we are talking about ROS2 Control, but maybe some people in the audience, that's the first time that they have heard about that. Can you explain to the audience what is ROS2 Control and what's its purpose?
Basically I call it ROS2 Control is kernel of ROS for your robots. Why? Because the idea is that we abstract the hardware in such a way that you can have the same interfaces independent on the robot manufacturers. Like, of course, if it's the same type of the robot, it's like with the mouse. Currently, you can just plug mouse into your computer and it just works on any computer, almost any mouse.
Yeah.
And that's what we are basically doing for us. Doesn't matter if you have KUKA, UR, FANUC, KBB, or other robot manufacturers. You connect your robot, you start appropriate driver, and you can use it, for example, with Move It out of the box. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea there behind it. And besides that, what we are doing a lot is hardware management. So basically synchronization between different hardwares, access control to the hardware, because you don't want multiple things to write to the same hardware at the same time and so on. So this is basically the main business. And one big part of ROS2 Control are also controllers, which are controllers in the control theory sense. For example, admittance controller or many controllers are like trajectory execution. One of the most popular is diff drive controller, which is, for example, also standard controller for differential drive robots, which are very common. It's idea to help you using this standardized controller to have tested components for controlling your hardware without much thinking about that, and to let out users to focus on their application.
Excellent. But then, please clarify me one thing. You mentioned that is like in the example of the mouse, which is very clear. But then, does it mean that ROS2 Control also provides the connection for any hardware? Like, for example, for the sensor, it's also for allowing a sensor to be connected to the robot and then provide the interface. Does ROS2 Control is in charge of providing the interface for the laser, the LiDAR?
For example, for sensors, yes. For LiDAR, not necessarily. I mean, what is there a difference? It depends. Usually, if you need, let's say, if you need real-time control on something, for example, on force torque sensor, usually you want to have high dynamics of your robot, and you want to have fixed connection. You don't want to necessarily talk through multiple interfaces, through ROS and so on, to have stable control. Then you connect it directly to ROS2 Control.
Okay.
It's also possible to do this with LiDAR, but it's not what we are usually doing because there is much more data inside. But generally it's possible. So connect, the robots and sensors and so on.
Yeah, but that's not
more on the real side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the main purpose, because for LiDARs we have the own drivers. For cameras we have their own drivers for ROS. So, and they don't need to be integrated within ROS2 Control. Just a ROS controller can connect to the interface of a LiDAR, which is provided by its own driver, ROS driver, right? Exactly.
I mean, there could be use case where if you want to have very deterministic behavior with LiDAR, like really in the time sense, very deterministic, like really real time, then it would make sense to edit to ROS2 Control. But that's not usually the case, what people are striving to, especially when we are talking about cameras, 3D cameras and so on. Usually the algorithms need more time to process, and you are not on the level of a few milliseconds of processing time. So everything what you want to have, like you can say fast, but real-time, fast, stable, you put that into ROS2 Control.
Okay, great. And then can you tell us how many people are using ROS2 Control at the present? You have mentioned that this base of users is growing very fast. Can you tell us something about numbers?
Unfortunately not.
Okay,
we had actually because we had actually our analytics on our documentation. It was quite a lot, people visiting, a few thousands per month, different people visiting. But now for a month or so it doesn't work because we changed something on the site. We have to fix that. So I don't have the fresh data, but it's like between 1,000 and 2,000 people visiting our documentation site. That's what I can tell you. How many people are then actually using it? There are many silent people.
Yes.
We know people who are visiting our working group, control working group, for example, but that's usually between 10 and 20 people, which are the regular ones. You know them, but most of the time, I mean, it's like also the Move It meeting. Many people are using Move It, but they are not going to Move It maintainers meeting or so on. So it's similar. So it's hard to say, but we see all the time new drivers. We see all the time new users. We don't even know how many different drivers for different components there are. I just 2 days before today, I added one new driver into our documentation because we are trying to document them. When we find something in the internet, but if nobody announces it on discourse, then maybe we miss it completely.
Okay, I see. But then you mentioned about the working group, and then the working group for ROS Control. This is a regular meeting that you, the developers of ROS Control, are holding in order to announce the novelties and to push the development forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have every second Wednesday. Second Wednesday we have a meeting at 7 p.m. Central European time. So you can, and
everybody can attend, right?
Zones. Everybody can attend. Most of the time we have also a few days before announcement at ROS Discourse, or you can just search for ROS2 Control or Control VG meeting. You will find it on Discourse with all the information how to join. Everybody can join, even the people who are starting using ROS2 Control. They can also ask some questions. If they have. Usually we discuss what is new, what we are currently working, what we do, which development. to see which moves, and especially people who wants to use it. It's useful because sometimes you see things which will happen in the future. You see things which will come in the framework, and then it's quite helpful. And you can also get some contacts with people, even if we don't answer your questions directly there, because we are limited to 1 hour, and we are trying to have hard limits. Otherwise, we can talk all night, And but people can get contact to then ask people, questions they have.
Okay. I will put a link to the ROS Discord, where they can find also previous meeting links, so the audience can see what to expect. See what to expect when a new link is promoted for a new meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, our also meeting notes are completely publicly available, open, and they are in every announcement. It's a Google Docs document. You can just open it. You can scroll through it. There are links, discussions, and so on. So you can see also the history a bit if you want. Yeah.
Excellent. And how many people are developing ROS2 Control at present?
So what we have, very active people, we are around 5, like people who are you see working on the daily basis, but there are for sure 20 who are doing it more or less sporadically. We have even broader community. We are there, I think, a bit special, because we have reviewers lottery, and everybody can apply for this lottery, even the newbie. And because what we want to get as much as possible feedback on each pull request. And then the bot in the GitHub will just it will just assign you pull request to review, and then it's expected from you to go through it and check it and review it the best as you can. We are aware that every person has different knowledge, and every person, checks different things, but that's actually the idea of open source project. You want to get as much as possible opinions, and maybe someone likes it, learns a lot, because you can also learn a lot from the reviews where we have deeper discussions, and actually join the development. So we are trying to be there as much as possible open.
Excellent. So you mentioned now a lot of stuff here, and my brain is going rushing with a lot of things. One of the things is, I want to clarify for the audience about what you mentioned, but also about our students. So actually, we can push our students to go there and participate in the process, because they are going to be learning by doing something useful for the community, and at the same time they are learning and applying the skills that they have learned in our academy.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. What I would just only ask people, if you apply to it, please do it.
Yes.
Because we are cleaning the list from time to time for people who do it, but it's commitment to the community. And then you should do it. It's not expected that you do each and every pull request, of course. Sometimes there are a lot. Sometimes they are very complex. But, at least keep pushing, keep being there. It will also help you, to develop.
Your skills, exactly.
Yeah, that's the only way, actually, how you develop your skills.
Exactly, by practicing. But in this case, this is ROS2 Control, but the same apply to other packages. If one student doesn't like about ROS Control but prefers ROS2 navigation, also it's possible to do this. The point is to get involved into this, because then you will be doing some code, some practice, some applying of your skills into something that is beneficial for the whole community also at the same time that you are learning and practicing, I think. Then that's definitely, just find your favorite package and just stick to it. Let's say it's not possible to cover everything. Well, there is, but on the other hand, there is enough to choose from. So it's a lot. But here today, we came here to sell ROS2 Control. Okay, so if you are listening to this podcast, you have to enroll the ROS2 Control pull request system. No, just joking. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, well, to clarify, is you are saying that those developers, they are reviewing pull requests. Those pull requests come from who? From the developer, the team of developers of ROS2 Control, or external people that are pushing those?
They can come from anyone. I mean, they are mostly, you have most of the pull requests come from the same people. That's how it is with every library, but they can come from everyone. So we have even good first issues, good second issues, markers on the issues, which are quite trivial to do actually for people who want to start, you know, like renaming some stuff in the code or stuff like that, which we just don't have time to do because we more experienced people, we try to focus on complex stuff because there is enough complex stuff to deal with, and, you know, and let people actually come in on these simpler changes, and they can get some very easy commits and get deeper into the framework. Yeah. So everybody can join. Everything is publicly available. Everything is open.
Okay, but then how do you decide to do something? Because if there is an issue, then it's clear. Okay, so this person gets assigned the issue, then it corrects the issue and submits a pull request. But how does ROS2 Control evolves? How do you decide to develop this new feature or this new controller that you were talking about?
Usually, I mean, we have a roadmap, but we are not sticking so 100% to the roadmap, which is also nice on the other hand, because I think you catched me now on my favorite topic, because I'm a lot currently also thinking from my company perspective and client's perspective and so on, and software development and so on. But basically what's for me very important there, we have really most of the things which come into ROS2 Control are the stuff you need in the real world. Of course, there are some more complex things which need roadmap, which need explanation, like we have now on the roadmap to change the core of ROS2 Control, how it's working in the next months. This will probably take 6 to 12 months or something like that, because it's slow development. We will simplify many things for the people, but this is a big thing to do. And then we describe it, of course, and everything. But like new controller, we are just open to it. If someone says, look, this controller, it's generically written, it works, we are using it on our 5 robots in our lab, for example, or whatever, and people explain why this needed, we are glad to integrate it also in the framework. What person gets from it, of course, we are glad if person sticks to it and maintains it and so on. But the point is, we are then keeping care about all releases, updates, and so on. So when we change something in the core framework, this controller will be updated and so on. So we are there quite open. There is no committee deciding what to do. What we are more discussing often, it's how to do some things, because, you know, we know the issue, we know the symptoms, and there are different approaches how we can solve it or not. For me, one of the important things is simplicity, how simple the code base stays. For me, simple solution wins with less changes, not adding additional complexity, and it's important to be understandable for users. And that's basically how we decide. We decide in these control working group meetings, actually, how we do stuff, and everybody can join, everybody can discuss it. If someone has very good points, why we should do something as we should do, and he was never contributing to ROS2 Control, I'm fully open to it. Okay. You know, it's completely democratic process, and good ideas I think should win, as long as we don't, you know, have to break half of the things
that are already working.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Interesting. This is such an amazing experience for the people that are learning there about ROS. Then really get involved into this package development and start practicing your skills. Then you are developing ROS2 Control, but before we had ROS1 Control. So what, in which sense has ROS2 Control improved from the ROS1 version?
So we changed quite a lot. Basically, we changed almost complete core. They are still the concepts inside. They are the same, but how we handle stuff are completely different. So we did a lot of flexibility, how you can combine stuff. One of the main thing is that if people know ROS Control, they were combined robot hardware. Now it's everything combined robot hardware, so you can very easily put multiple hardwares into one ROS2 Control, which means that you have synchronized them very well. For example, multiple robots and so on. It's easy to synchronize them. It's easy to extend with new sensors and so on. What else? It's different. I mean, we are using also. We have a bit nicer user interface because it's not only services. We now also provide CLI and so on, which helps a lot for debugging. Now we are also able to do much more complex controller structures. So we can chain controllers, for example, and so on. Yeah.
Yes, also one of the things that may seem very little for you because you are concentrated in so complex stuff, but for me, one of the best improvements that I have seen is the feedback of when something goes wrong or when something goes correct. So you launch the ROS2 Control package with your controllers, and then if it's providing you a feedback of what is happening at every time, so you know in which step the ROS Control was stopped in case that there was an error, which that was completely missing on the other previous ROS2 Control, so it just failed, and you didn't have an idea of what was happening there. Why did it fail? No idea at all. And now you are using even different colors, different types of reporting. So it's very, very clear to understand what is happening when you launch the controllers. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm probably not aware of that because for me it's already too normal. Let's say, yeah. Thanks.
No. Really, that for me was the thing that shocked me the most. To understand what is happening. So when you have a problem, you can go and attack the problem. And then want to ask you about how is the development of the ROS2 Control? We already discussed about that. Sorry. So let me see. Yeah. So which controllers are included off the shelf?
We have currently, I don't know, around 10 controllers or so on. But the most important ones, I would say, is joint trajectory controller, which is executing trajectories. It's one of the main controllers because MoveIt uses it to execute trajectories on the robots. Then diff drive controller, which is controller used for differential robots. When used with navigation, you have the interface and you can use it. What we added recently, a few months ago, are steering controllers for different kinematics, like Ackermann, four-wheel, tricycle, bicycle, and so on. So it depends how you define your kinematics. Then we have very simple, we call them forwarding controllers, which is basically you send command, you send some number at the end, and we transfer it just directly to the hardware. Up to also complex ones, which is admittance controller, which is basically force control. Controller which helps you to force control your robot.
Excellent. So that's a lot of controllers that are already available. So if I want to use it in my robot, I only need to say during the configuration file which controller and then which parameters for that controller, right? And then it's going to work.
Exactly.
But that's also amazing.
But actually one amazing thing, because setting the parameters not fun.
Yes, that's right.
Even for me, who knows a bunch of parameters and works with that every day, but what we have there, this is my favorite feature.
Okay.
My favorite feature is actually mock hardware, which is like trivial simulation. You can even not call it simulation. We shouldn't call it simulation because it's not simulating. It's just mirroring commands you are sending to this hardware back to you. And it's great to set up even very complex systems. It's incredible how complex systems we are able to test with those things. And you don't need any hardware. You can do everything on your computer. You can test all the parameters. It starts immediately. It's blazing fast to check all the setup, all the parameters and so on. And I recommend everybody to use it because it saves so much time. And we created it because I lost so much time back then on working directly on hardware. And, then you miss one parameter of the controller, and then your complete stack crashes. And it needs like 30 to 60 seconds to start everything, and then 20 times you restart everything, how many hours
you are wasting.
Before. And this just helps you, and you can basically do everything in your office on the nice PC, big monitor, and so on. And then when you move to the lab with the robot, which you usually use your laptop or something, it's much less convenient to develop. But my controllers and everything is set up properly.
It's working.
You can just focus on the hardware side.
Great.
So that's a big
thing. So this is a good tool for remote workers. Then that at present there are a lot of people that are working remotely, even in robotics, and they don't have access to the robot. They have to build the programs, and they use simulation. But then, even for the controllers, they can be working remotely for that purpose by using this feature.
Exactly. Because oftentimes, it's from my experience in my daily work, we will come later to it. We don't really need simulation, or setting up the simulation. It's so complex that we decide rather not to do it because there is no enough wind. Because we will almost never manage to replicate the real system. So we then just say, okay, let's not fight with physics in Gazebo. Let's just work with the mock hardware. It will be sufficient, and then the rest we do directly on the hardware. But it helps us to solve this first part, that all the configuration is set up, and you can even test some small behaviors. I mean, we have different parameters there. I actually developed most of the admittance control or force control using this thing, where you could input external force, like fake force, and then you could see how this would behave. Of course, you have to optimize it on the hardware. That's out of the question. But you can really have very good sanity checks. When you run on the hardware, you just have to tackle real world problems. No configuration problems anymore for you.
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's excellent. Is that one of the subjects that you are going to teach during your workshop at ROS2, or is this considered also a basic knowledge?
I would put it in the basic knowledge, but actually it's a good idea. We will mention it for sure.
Okay,
we'll mention it for sure because there are few options. I have to mention it because there are few advanced options in there which people are not aware of, but it can help you a lot.
Okay. So we are not teaching this on our course of ROS2 Control.
Then you should add it.
Yes, exactly. I took the notes here just to add it. I'm going to talk to the guy later.
Yeah.
Excellent. Then, so what is so you explain about the controllers that are off the shelf, these mock controllers also. What is the control toolbox?
Yeah, Control Toolbox is one library inside ROS2 Control. I mean, ROS2 Control is basically a set of libraries. That's why sometimes I say framework. And Control Toolbox has some control tools inside of it. For example, like basic PID implementation. The most important one is basic PID implementation where you're using all around the place. It's like shared toolbox of the basic concepts we use in different controllers. We want to share between controllers.
Okay. And then does this has any related with the integration with Gazebo? So does ROS2 Control integrates with Gazebo?
Yes, integrates with both Gazebo Classic and Gazebo Sim, or the new Gazebo. We have our plugins for it. They are called Gazebo ROS2 Control and the GZ ROS2 Control plugins, which you then just start inside Gazebo and you get all the ROS2 Control world inside. This is important to be done in that way, that you basically load plugins from Gazebo, from the simulator, because simulator is your source of truth. Simulator is basically your source of clock and everything, and it has to be like above ROS2 Control to commanding ROS2 Control when to execute what.
Okay, but then, so having said that, and then having previously said about the mock system that is inside the hardware, so how does it, why should we use then Gazebo and the plugins for ROS2 Control?
There are many cases where you want to use Gazebo on the other side. I mean, what Gazebo is really great, it's simulating sensors. So if you want to test something with camera, test something with LiDARs, have a bit of physics, or not a bit, having a physics inside, you have to use Gazebo.
And also interaction, for example, in order to feel the force when it's colliding with something. So you need to feel this. For that, you need the physics, right? Of this.
Yeah, they what you need, the real simulator. I mean, mock hardware is not a simulator. It's just very simple component mocking your hardware. Nothing else. It's really lean, very simple, very stupid. I mean, we added very simple dynamic simulation into it just to enable people so that you can kind of command velocities and you also get some position changes. But this is everything idealized.
Yes.
So you will never get a real behavior. We don't strive to it. We just strive, how we can test fast the complex system. And my usually development workflow is I usually work with mock hardware when I get everything fixed there because I know all the setup is correct. Then I move to simulator if we use simulator in the project, and then we move to the real hardware. So it's just like one more step in the development process. And the main idea behind it enables you to focus on only one thing during a development process. So when you are using more hardware, you focus only on the setup. When you are then using Gazebo, then you focus on much more stuff. Then you also focus, is my robot set up correctly? Is their physics correct? And there is more things to think about. And when you move to hardware, there are then another thing, hardware drivers, things to think and so on. So just, to reduce the scope on different testing levels, let's say.
Yeah. So you're moving faster rather than going straight into the robot and then having to do that there. All the whole configuration, that's a nightmare. That's very good.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so let's make an example for the people that are listening. Then let's say that I have built my new robot, and then I want to control it with ROS2 Control. So what do I have to do? So can I just install ROS2 Control packages and then this miraculously connects to my hardware and then I can start moving the robot?
So theoretically, yes. In the practice, it depends, of course.
So in the future, let's say in the future, yes, because we are now like in the process of when at the beginning of Windows, when you had to, so the manufacturer had to provide a driver. Exactly. Right? And then if the manufacturer doesn't provide a driver for Windows, then it will not work, your mouse. So there were some mouses that didn't work and so on. So in this case, you have built your robot, you install ROS Control, but still you need this connection between ROS2 Control and the actual hardware, right?
Exactly. But I mean, we have for the very common robots used with ROS, we have already drivers, and they are very well maintained. I mean, one of the best drivers is UR driver for sure. And
But I'm talking about.
active.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about a robot that I have made myself with my own control board.
Yeah, but it depends. For example, there are also some already Arduino abstraction things.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So Arduino library. I actually referenced one in our documentation. But you can also find finished drivers for different stuff. Of course, it depends which motor you use, which, for example, Arduino shields you use, and so on. But if there is already, let's say, hardware interface there for specific Arduino shield for specific number of motors controlling, you probably just have to configure it. You don't need to develop anything, and you can use it.
Okay, but then if I have my own board, let's imagine my own control board, I have developed myself, then in that case, I will need to build a hardware interface, right? Inside ROS2 Control, which is the program that connects to the real hardware by using the libraries to connect direct to the hardware and then interfaces with ROS2 Control.
Exactly. Basically, hardware interface is a driver for your robot.
Exactly. So somebody has built his own robot and wants to control with ROS2 Control, then he has to develop this hardware interface, right, which is the control loop.
Yeah, exactly. Right? But I mean, I would also say even half. I mean, it's half correct because. Okay. Usually, you use some kind of standard motors.
Okay.
Usually, you use some standard motors. Okay, you can have completely your board, but probably you will control it either using Raspberry Pi or having Arduino in between.
That's very common.
Shield. I don't think that you will develop everything from scratch. I mean, you can, but then I think nobody does that. And then there are probably already components for that.
Already done by somebody else.
You just have to look. Yeah, exactly. You have to look at it. For example, a common thing, especially going into more professional use of mobile robots, those motors are often controlled using CAN interface. This is, for example, also communication interface used in cars and so on. And if you have CAN controlled motors, there is ROS2 CAN Open library. They are often then using CAN Open, which is standardized protocol. There is ROS2 CAN Open library, which has connection to ROS2 Control. So if you have already CAN Open motors, you can immediately use it with ROS2 Control. You just need to put some basic setup for the CAN, and that it works out of the box. So, Excellent. It depends which hardware you use, but you can find a lot of already pre-finished stuff.
Okay. Yeah, so I didn't know about those predefined stuff that is out there. Yeah. So that means that ROS2 Control is quite mature already, because people have been developing. But with this question, what I wanted to state is that even in the worst case scenario, you are building everything by yourself. You still can have it controlled by ROS2 Control just by developing the hardware interface, which is a small part of the ROS Control. You need to do that. You can do it. There is a process for doing it. In our course, we are teaching how to do that. Just saying, but it is in the worst case scenario. You can do that by yourself, and it's a little bit more work, but it's possible.
Yeah, you can do it, but you don't have to do the other side. You don't have to do the controller side.
Exactly,
which enables you standard connection to navigation tool framework.
Exactly,
framework.
All the rest is done.
This for free.
Exactly, you get all those done, and then you only need to develop this small part, which is a hardware interface. Or you can use one of those solutions that you mentioned, CAN bus-based motors, or Raspberry Pi, Arduino, etc., and then search there for the controllers.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then what about real-time control? So does ROS2 Control support real-time control?
Yeah, ROS2 Control is generally real-time capable, which means, because real-time is hard topic. It depends. Real time depends also always on your hardware and operating system. If you are using standard Ubuntu, don't come and talk about real time because there is nothing real time inside.
Okay.
We can put it like that. But if you really use real time kernel, real time Linux kernel, and so on, you can achieve real time performance with ROS2 Control.
Okay. And then what? So you mentioned a lot of things that we can do with ROS2 Control. Then what are at present some limitations of ROS2 Control, some things that cannot be done yet in ROS2 Control?
So one of the things which will be possible to be done soon, it's, for example, integration of estimators inside ROS2 Control.
What is that?
Because I mentioned these chaining controllers, but you also sometimes want to have much complex components which are in control theory called estimators. For example, this is very important for humanoid robotics to calculate the center of gravity of the robot all the time, because you have to do a lot of calculations all the time to keep the robot actually standing on feet. And currently, this is one feature which is in pull request, and it will come in soon. But it's not possible yet if you install it from binaries to have your own complex estimators, which then other controller can use with real-time performance. That's, for example, a thing. One thing is, which is also currently a bit messy to do in ROS2 Control is, for example, you want to set IOs on your robot, which are usually Boolean values, is 1 or 0. Output, you want to set output, you want to, turn on LED on your robot. And you want to just say true, false, 1, 0, whatever. Okay. You can do that, but you have to do it through double values, because the communication inside ROS2 Control is done currently at the moment just using double values. This is a bit of cumbersome. I mean, it's doable, but this is one thing we are currently looking at. What I said, this thing, what we will change a lot of internally. This is to solve such a problems. But we want to do it carefully because we want to have everything running all the time, of course. So that's, for example, thing. One thing is also what is missing at the moment is the Cartesian control of the robots. I mean, theoretically, you can do it, but it's not nice abstraction. So currently, we don't have standardized controller, for example, where you send Cartesian twist message, and then controller moves, then the robot moves in Cartesian space, for example, manipulators with this velocity. We always do joint space control. That's for example, things, but those things, for example, this controller is not so complex. It's just, it's not done yet. So if everybody wants to do it, we are welcome to get pull requests from you.
Okay, so for the audience of the ROS Developers Podcast, so this is a call, okay? So please don't let me down.
Yeah, exactly.
Help my my guest of today, and then also we are going to be we are going to get the benefit of that. Great. Then what else? Let me see here. Yes, about your company. So your company is called Stogl Robotics. Huh?
Yes.
I wonder this name, where does it comes from?
From my surname, because I'm I was thinking how to name a company, and I realized the most successful companies in the world are those with boring names. No, I'm joking. but there are a lot of like that, and then I just say, okay, let's not spend too much time thinking about cool name. Let's just start to do something.
Exactly, that's for me.
It's more important to do great things than have a great name. We can always rename the company if someone has better idea.
Excellent, you are the best. You are so right on this. Yes, you are so right. But what is your company about?
Yeah, so what we are providing, core in our business, are consulting services with ROS and ROS2. According to our clients, ROS2 is more important. That's what we are doing most of the time. A little ROS. We have currently one ROS project, but it's not big. Usually ROS2 projects. everything focusing or with a big focus on ROS2 Control. This, of course, doesn't mean that we have to, of course, to realize application, do stuff with Move It, do stuff with navigation, doing stuff with state machines, for example, SMAC, using behavior trees and so on, because we are basically helping companies to build their products. And what is our target or what is where we are developing, it's basically into robotics integrator with ROS. So combining also classical automation with ROS. And that's where I see personally a lot of possibilities because classical automation market is quite slow. It's hard to integrate stuff. And I think that it can really profit from ROS solutions, from this high dynamic environment. And that's where we are now working a lot in that area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in our case, we get a lot of people asking us for help in their projects because we are teaching ROS, so we know about the subject, then they come to us, but we cannot provide those consultation services. So that's one of the services that your company provides. So for the audience, just for the audience to let them know. So in case that you need some help, then you can contact Denis. I will put a link to his contact details on LinkedIn, also the company, in order to help you with your projects. So if you contact us, that what I'm going to do is to redirect to him. So, but you can go, if you are listening to this podcast, you can go directly to him without having to have this redirection. And
thank you very much about that.
No, sure, of course. So I seen how Denis knows about the subject. Well, he's one of the main developers of ROS2 Control, so that says everything, but I have seen him in action. And so he's a master in ROS2, so he can help you for sure in your project. And then, about your consultancy services, I have some other questions here. Are you doing also hardware development, or is only software based?
Currently, we are very much focused on software because we are working also a lot remote. Nevertheless, we are not afraid of hardware. So we did already before also some hardware development of robots from scratch. So we very much know what this means. It's just that the current clients usually either have their robot they want to, they want to automate their own platform, or we also help them, consulting them with sensors they should take. For example, if they have a robotics manipulator and to realize application, they need cameras and so on. So we help them also to choose the right one, to integrate this properly and so on. I mean, it's not that we have our own machining, machine pool and so on to do typical, how you say, machine building hardware stuff. We would do that through partners, but basically what we are looking how to integrate the whole application, and the hardware is there, and what we can help our clients is definitely help them with decision which hardware is worth buying, especially if you are using ROS, because you can save a bunch of time if you buy the right sensor or the right robot and so on.
Exactly, because you can take the benefit of ROS, and that's a lot solved.
Yeah.
Then your services are done on remotely or on the premises of your clients?
It's mixed. We are also doing remotely quite successfully for a few years already with some clients. With some clients, we are doing more on their premise, or part of development is their remote, even they are a few kilometers from us, and we go to them for integration then, because we try to make things efficient as much as possible, of course. And also we have also possibilities to put some smaller cells, robotic cells or machines into our office so that we also have them on our premise if needed. That's, for example, something which will happen now very soon in one project. So all combinations are possible. We are always looking what's the best for the clients, to get the results as fast as possible so that we can develop good and that they are happy with the solution. Okay.
But then how did you manage to combine your work at Stogl Robotics and then the development of ROS2 Control?
So we are very lucky that most of our clients understands that ROS2 Control stuff, it's not their core IP. And they're basically also let us contribute to ROS2 Control. Or either sometimes they're explicitly asked they won't have controllers fixed and they want to have stuff extended into ROS2 Control if they are deeper into matter. It's also something what I have implemented in the company, that people have to spend at least 4 hours on open source project per week. It's like mandatory. It should be ROS2 Control, but I like freedom. So I say also my team, it doesn't have to be ROS2 Control. If they like Navigation 2 more, they can work on Navigation 2. For us, it's important that they love open source, that they contribute to open source constantly, and that they keep in the loop, because that's basically what we also provide to our clients, this top-notch knowledge and in-depth knowledge of many ROS components, which you can only get when you are working with them almost all the time. So this is also a part, and many projects are connected to ROS2 Control. I mean, I mentioned we are doing also, of course, other stuff, but there is always ROS2 Control in the middle, and I see that many robotics applications, they are not lacking on the better path planning software. Maybe some of them. But most of the applications actually struggle on the proper control stack, proper hardware abstraction, and set up, the low level to be stable and work properly. That you can debug it, that you can check the state all the time, and that you can even restart components during runtime and so on. So there are a bunch of things there still to work on.
Okay, excellent. Makes perfect sense. Because, as you mentioned, your team strength is about their knowledge of the whole ROS ecosystem. Of course, ROS2 Control is more important because it's more core for most of the projects. But any other ROS project is also valuable knowledge for your team in order to afterwards develop your project with your clients on this. So that makes perfect sense. Excellent. Then, okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions more. Then what are the plans of the future for ROS2 Control?
So plans for, I mentioned already some things we are currently working at. More than that is hard to say. I mean, we are debugging, hardening, and so on things all the time. I cannot say that we have some specific, that's what we have these big features we are currently working on. They will take, for sure, at least a year or at least 6 months, probably a year or two, to get them done properly. And that's what we are focusing on. What we are focusing really on the stuff that people need, that our users really need in the real world scenarios, and that's a thing. I mean, this is for ROS2 Control side, from my company side, how we are utilizing ROS2 Control. My goal is to bring really ROS2 Control in the industry. So now we are working on the robotic cell, which is ROS2 Control controlled, because I said I want to have ROS Control production facility. Let's say it like that. That's one of my long-term goals, and this is one of the stepping stone, the center to achieve that.
It's like the goal that is guiding your development of ROS2 Control.
Yeah, that's the idea, because I really think, not only think, I really believe that the ROS can help industry a lot. And we need a lot of help because the problems are so complex. People are struggling with, so this is, and it's also very, very interesting environment. I mean, I'm coming from I studied control and automation technology, classical automation, PLCs and so on. So the automation is my really big passion. And ROS2 Control is one thing how you can realize really complex and really advanced automation solutions at the end.
Based on ROS.
And that's basically the core. Yeah, and based on ROS, because of course you want to use ROS just because of all the beautiful things you have on the side. And one of the most beautiful things probably people underestimate is RVs. That's my favorite thing, what I always explain in clients. Because I saw companies not using ROS, and I can tell you they are struggling with the simple debugging software. Their debugging software is such a mess. Just use RVs. Believe me, your product will not be better if you develop your own UI for debugging. It will just not be better.
Yes, that is one of the things that I mentioned also. I completely agree with you of one of the why ROS has had such a good success. And then they say, no, well, because this inter-process communication and this is super cool. And I say, no, at that time, when ROS appeared, there were 100 of same frameworks that do exactly the same thing. For me, the main 2 points that made the difference was, one, the wiki documentation was excellent for the time, was amazing. So allow the people to get in and understand how it works. And second, RBS, because it allowed you to debug your programs when you were. Those for me are the key points why ROS won. That's No, I agree, and this is people should not underestimate it. It sounds easy, but it's really not easy to develop such a software, and it's also beautiful how ROS how much standardization on this hardware on the communication level of the data types it provides, and this is nice because often bigger companies, they are, you have two departments fighting whose class will win. Why? There is no point in it. We have here, already laser scan message is standardized. Just to use laser scan message. Yes. Probably you can optimize it a bit. But I am quite sure that 95% of the businesses don't need the best optimized laser scan message. Yeah. That's not their core problem. Exactly. That's not the core problem where the maximum benefit can be done. Yeah. It's a minimal benefit and they're dedicating a lot of time to that. So let me ask you one final question. It's in your opinion. So what do you think what's going to happen in the future with all the industrial robot arms? Because at present, most of the manufacturers, they are not using ROS, not ROS2 Control, but not ROS. They are using their own frameworks that they have built along years. So do you, in your opinion, do you think that this is going to change into ROS adoption of those industrial robotics companies, or they are going to keep developing in their own way, and then we are going to be living in a world where there are many different standards. Each company has his own standard, and then a group of ones that are using ROS, but it's a minimum amount, like, for example, now with the operating systems. So we have Windows, and then the Linux guys, we say, oh, that's better, you have to use it, but it's just relegated to us. Even if we know it's better, we don't use antivirus, we don't waste our time on those things, we just install the applications, apt-get, and so on. So it's has a lot of benefits, but the other people doesn't get it. So what is your opinion? How is going to evolve the market in terms of adoption of ROS?
So I'm I'm very sure that adoption of ROS will rise. If at the end we will have some kind of winner, I'm not sure. I don't know, because especially when you go into classical automation with robots and so on. Classical automation approaches are also very, very good. They are also like 30 to 50 years of knowledge in them. And we should not underestimate them. That's a huge amount of things. Where the ROS really excel is when you need to do more complex stuff. When you need more complex control methods, you want to combine multiple sensors and so on. That's where the standard system behave quite poorly.
Very good point.
I'm very sure that it will rise. It will probably not be. I don't think that will ever be like 100%. Mm-hmm. It will for sure be some kind of mixture. And on the other hand, this is good because I think as also for me is ROS and what I also trying to transfer to my clients, it's about freedom. It's about freedom of choice. And if you think that some other system is better for you, just use it. Just, there is really, and it could be that there will be some niche use cases where proprietary software of current robotic manufacturer will just be much better because they are doing this for years and they optimize it for years for certain application, which just there is no much interest from the community and so on. But on the other hand, for example, for me, it's this, for my company, strategic question. And I am convinced that ROS is a way where we can do at least some things better and faster than the other people. And that's why we also use it. And it's a lot of fun to work in open source community, to be honest. So I would not change it for nothing. But also on the other hand, I know that classical automation is also opening towards ROS. So if we will then use at the end ROS2 Control to control every robots, probably less, but where the ROS will be used, for example, for high-level stuff, you want to just connect some newest image processing algorithm based on AI and so on. So many papers are coming out already with ROS libraries. And this is, I think, where the value is and which will come a lot. If the ROS2 Control will be the thing to control the robots and all the hardware, it's hard to say because, for example, it's hard to compete with the Siemens Systems, who has, 50 years of experience how to control hardware, and they are doing it very well. Let's be honest. Their things just work. It's not maybe nice. It's not maybe convenient from the newer people, but it's convenient. And one factor which I cannot actually, I don't know about, it could be that ROS gets a bit more push in the next years, especially just because it's the main tool for teaching robotics at universities. And it's modern development framework. Let's be honest. That's, you can really use modern development methods, which people like. And that's why many people are pushing ROS. I was also having already a few classical companies as a clients where they are pushing ROS, especially for those things, because people want to develop in the modern environment. And what is also a thing, the bigger companies are also looking how to connect ROS and classical technologies, because many R&D departments, really of the huge corporations, even they are not supporting ROS at all, their R&D departments, there is very high probability they are using ROS. Because they want to develop new stuff, they want to have new algorithms, they want to connect different cameras fastly, they want to play, and move fast.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. It's a very good thought about the future of the robots with ROS and especially with ROS2 Control. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, Denis. Thank you very much for the whole interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Okay, then what are we going to do now? Yes, so that is all for today, guys over there. So please, if you are listening this in Spotify, iTunes, wherever you are listening to this, please give us 5 stars if you like it. Or if you don't, then go to the show notes and tell us what you think. You can go to the show notes and put a comment there on the comment section and let us know what you like it, what you didn't like, what you would like to have in future episodes. We are here open. This is for you. This podcast is for you, and then we would like to serve you well. So thank you very much, and see you next week with a new lesson from the experts. And until then, keep pushing your ROS learning.